What's going on, everybody? Here we are on this leap day of a leap year. It is February 29th, 2024. 4 years ago, when we had the last leap day, right before all hell broke loose with the pandemic, I took advantage of this and I did an update. So I thought, why not continue this quarter, whatever, every 4 years doing something on leap day. Before we get into the update, just wanted to give a few little self-promotion out there. Last time I talked about the John Wayne Gacy murders, Life and Death in Chicago. The final 2 episodes, the sound mix and the color correction is being finished, and then we're still hoping to have that out in May or June. Streaming services are currently being worked on, so we will have those to announce hopefully soon, and there will be a physical Blu-ray release for it, so keep your eyes out for those. And then I, of course, will also do a video of that when that comes out, because I've got a lot of stories, I've got a lot of fun behind the scenes to share, so there will be a lot of John Wayne Gacy murders content here on this channel. Again, I've got a really fun little role in it, and I got to do some crazy stuff for the shoot. And then I also want to give a shameless plug. I was recently featured as the special guest on an episode of the VH Us podcast alongside host Dirk Marshall. I was brought on to talk about the 1994 movie Funny Man. As you can see, they did this amazing artwork which depicts me as the titular Funny Man in the jester hat. Because of my background in comedy and at the Second City, he thought I would be a fun guest to have on to talk about that film. And we had a great discussion out of it, so you can listen to that on iTunes, on Spotify, vhus.com, anywhere podcasts are streamed, to listen to it. So that's what's going on in my life, so keep your eyes peeled in the coming months. Hopefully by the time I do the next update, probably in May, I will have more exciting Gacy news to share with you, and definitely check out that podcast. Now, let's get into the update. And we've got the first new movie of the update right here is Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. The only Eli Roth movie I have ever watched, and I saw this in the theater, and I had a pretty decently fun time with it. I will say I never saw the original Grindhouse trailer that this is based on. I watched it after the fact, of course, but I'm kind of glad that I never did, because, you know, a lot of this is borrowed and inspired from the moments of that. So I got to see this completely blind for the first time, which I think helped my experience with this movie. And overall, it's fun. I know they're talking about the sequel now and turning this into a franchise. I don't really know if it warrants that. It's very much a Scream style, movie, but I had fun with it. The kills are fun. It's nice to see an old school slasher film like this on the big screen after that god-awful Halloween trilogy we got. So it's fun. Like I said, Eli Roth is not someone I've ever followed, because I know I would not like Hostel, The Green Inferno. I just know I would not get anything out of those, so I've never even bothered. But this was fine. I was underwhelmed a little by the third act and who the killer wound up being, because I'm like, oh, they took a very easy route with that. But overall, for horror fans, for slasher fans, it's entertaining. It's Eli Roth at his most restrained, even though it's still got his hallmarks all over it. It's good. Now, this one is a bootleg, and I thought this was a joke. I thought this was a fake thing when I first came across this guy. I'm like, what? Because growing up, I was always a pretty decent-sized fan of the Peanuts. And I had a lot of VHS tapes. My favorite was always Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. I was looking on this bootleg website, and I found this, and I said, that can't be real. Sure enough, this was a real Peanuts special that was put on video in the 80s with Charles Schultz, I guess trying to capitalize on the success of Who's Roger Rabbit, with even this title sounds fake, and the cover makes it look like a porno. It's the girl in the red truck, Charlie Brown. I was like, this was a real Peanuts special? Like, what the hell is this? And it's not even about any of the main it's about Snoopy's brother Spike, who lives in the middle of the desert, and he's the only animated thing. It's like him in the real world. The dog falls in love with this girl, but she has a boyfriend that doesn't like dogs, and there's this roller skating, roller rink scene that goes on for like 10 minutes. It's bizarre. I mean, you only see Charlie Brown and Snoopy in like the first minute of it. Uh, it's an 80s oddity, and if you're a Peanuts fan, it's definitely worth watching just for completion and to see the most unique thing that Charles Schultz ever did. It's not that good. I'll say that right now. It's a bizarre one. And then this is one of those I've really, ever since I saw Hackers a number of years back, I've really been trying. I just want to get all my 90s, vibes in. And I'm like, I knew about this one, but I had never seen the movie. So I'm like, okay, time for me to see this. I really got to dive deep into the 90s with Empire Records. And it's one of those quintessential 90s just kind of hangout movies where you're all just in the vibe with the characters, with the fashion, and it made me nostalgic for the days where I could just go to a CD store or a music store just like this. And the soundtrack of this movie is absolutely incredible. And it's so paper thin because there's really not too much of a story to it. You're just seeing the lives of these workers in a day, the shenanigans, and just the 90s-ness of it all. So I was pretty late getting to this one, but upon sitting down to watch it, it's a 90s teenage angst fueled music stylistic thing. Nothing's ever going to match Hackers as far as style goes, but Empire Records is great. I don't think it needs too much introduction. Same thing with this one, which I was just upgrading to Blu-ray. As you can see, I have not even taken it out of the shrink wrap yet. This has been always one of my favorite comedies. I know this one actually has kind of a bad rap, which I don't understand at all. I miss this. Then again, you're talking to me. I'm the guy who has a lot of fun with Corky Romano. So that late 90s, early 2000s branding of comedy, which is like the last hurrah of the entire genre of comedy. And we got Saving Silverman with Jack Black, Steve Zahn, Amanda Peet, and Jason Biggs. And how can I forget probably one of the greatest roles that R. Lee Ermey has ever played. I love the coach. The coach is awesome in this. You got Neil Diamond. It's so crazy. This is a plot that would get all of everyone up in arms. Like, oh my God, that's such a sexist movie, blah, blah, blah. Even though everything about this movie I have witnessed firsthand in person. And it's legit how people can get involved with the wrong person, marry the wrong person, and it ruins their life. Like, call it sexist all you want, but there's some realistic basis to this movie, and it's hilarious. I've always loved it since I saw it in the early 2000s as a kid. Steve Zahn, Jack Black, R. Lee Ermey, there is no better trio than that. And Neil Diamond. I mean, I personally love this movie. If you don't, that's fine. I know comedy is very suggestive, but this has always been one of my favorites. And, prior to this, my running thing was always in every update I would have a Paul Walker movie and a Gary Busey movie. Well, I covered all of Paul Walker's filmography. I got every movie he was in. So now, to modify that a little bit, every update is going to contain a Gary Busey movie still. And even though I've got a lot with him already, so I've almost been doing this already, but now we're going to make it official. Every movie will also contain a Kevin Bacon movie, of which there is zero shortage of. And this one is The Big Picture, an 80s comedy with him that I really never heard too much about. And it's all a satire about Hollywood and the movie-making process and the bureaucracies and politics associated with it. It's got a really fun cast, a lot of cameos in there. Like, Fran Drescher shows up at one point, and I'm just like, what is she doing here? And Martin Short is in here in this crazy uncredited role as an agent. If you're into that kind of stuff, it's fun. It's fun to see Kevin Bacon in this role. And can you honestly hate a movie that ends with a music video of a bunch of people dressed up as gigantic Pez dispensers? It doesn't get any better than that. I mean, look at The Big Picture, guys. But that one was enjoyable. It's not the most groundbreaking thing, but it's a serviceable watch. Just like with this, because I love a lot of my old school action, growing up with my dad and my grandparents and stuff like that. So last year I got the Kelly's Heroes and Where Eagles Dare, 2 Clint Eastwood movies that I loved, both of them. So now I'm just kind of going down the rest of that list, and now I got the Eiger Sanction, which overall is pretty good. It's a little long. I mean, it's got a great cast. And I mean, you got George Kennedy in there. It's always great when you put Clint Eastwood and George Kennedy together. Excellent climbing scenes, climbing stunts, although I think, unfortunately, some of the stunt, or at least one stuntman died while doing this movie, which is a kind of a shame. And it's directed by Clint Eastwood as well. It's a really weird movie tonally. Like, there's a very flamboyant gay man who has a dog, and the dog has a name that rhymes with maggot, and it's a word that starts with an F. There's a lot of really weird juvenile humor in this that would never fly. There's a lot about this that would never fly today. I don't get why all of that was in here. It seemed, again, very odd tonally. But the mountain climbing stuff at the end is crazy. I mean, the vertigo and stuff, if you don't like heights, some of the shots in there where you see Clint Eastwood dangling and you see all under him, like, it's pretty crazy stuff. It's not as good as Where Eagles Dare or Kelly's Heroes. I think Kelly's Heroes is still my favorite out of that bunch. But if you like this era of classic old action movies and Clint Eastwood, it's worth a watch. For me, parts of it just felt so damn weird that it was the only kind of shake off from it. All right, and then jumping off of climbing up a snowy mountainside, we are going down a snowy mountainside thanks to Ski School. This is one of those, this is not a good movie at all, but it's not boring, and it is just pure shenanigans all the way through. You've got Dean Cameron starring in it, and his other partner, Stuart Fratkin. I still need to see that show, like that space, They Came from Space or whatever that show was, because they are a treat. Every time they are on screen just goofing around, this is pure shenanigans. And all of these ski resort comedies all tie together after, like, Ski Patrol, Out Cold, Hot Dog the Movie. Like, there's so many of the ski comedy became its own trope in the 80s. And it's everything you would expect out of a movie like that. It would, again, never fly today. It's not good, but it's so stupid that it's going to entertain you and it's going to make you laugh. You know exactly the kind of movie you're in for looking at that cover. And then this is one that I really didn't have much initial interest in, but because Shout Factory was doing a very limited run of this, how they do the website exclusive limited releases. And I saw this one was going fast. Like, people were talking about, oh my God, you got to get this one before it's gone. And when I went on the website, there were only like 110 copies left. So I'm like, well, I better get that. Since that, I think they put an additional 1,000 copies, so you might be able to still get this now. But I'm like, well, it's got a good cast and stuff, so let's check it out. Unlawful Entry. And, Kurt Russell, Ray Liotta, two fantastic actors. Even though this whole era of the 90s where you had a lot of these domestic thrillers, whether it's Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Fatal Attraction, that whole white picket fence, suburban domestic stalker thriller, those movies all blend together for me and they all feel kind of the same. And this also has pretty much the same feel to it that all of those other ones do, but this one is strongly helped by the fact it is Kurt Russell and Ray Liotta. Ray Liotta's just got those crazy eyes in this that makes him perfect for the part. And Kurt Russell doing his Kurt Russell thing, being the everyman in the situation, and it hits all the beats you expect it to. It doesn't. It fits the mold of all those other ones, But to me, I would put this one higher on that list because of the cast. They really make this work. If this was anybody, if they had more generic faces in this, I think this would just be another run-of-the-mill stalker thriller that no one would think much about. It's Kurt fucking Russell. What else can you want out of him? He's always the best. And this one, I cannot believe I bought this. I had the DVD of this from when I was in the 6th grade. It was a Camp Motion Pictures DVD, because when I first started, many people don't realize I have been on YouTube since 2008. And I started by doing movie videos, because I was watching Cool Duder, before he, sold out and went to Hollywood, doing all that stuff. When he was like a regular guy like you and me, doing his movie collection, there was a movie he raved about all the time called Woodchipper Massacre. So it was a shot on video, like dark comedy sitcom thing, and so weird. And I saw that was getting a Blu-ray from TerrorVision. I'm like, I shouldn't be buying this. This goes against everything in my moral principle, but I had to get Woodchipper Massacre. I mean, the fact this has this nice custom Blu-ray by TerrorVision. They even got new extras, a new commentary, but it's really heartwarming seeing something like this too. Because as a kid, I didn't even respect how much of a time capsule this was, because this whole movie was shot in the director's house. So you just see an authentic slice of 80s life, just them making this movie. It's not gory at all, so don't let this slipcover fool you. It's very cheesy. Everyone in it is... The acting is good by nobody, but it's a little bit nostalgic, because like I said, I was in the 6th grade watching this when Cool Duder was talking about it, this 80s shot on video thing, and it... Yeah, and I remember the director of this, John McBride, who also stars in it, he has a YouTube channel called Pollen Facts, and he used to watch me a lot, and he would comment on a lot of my older videos. And nowadays you try to find John McBride, and it's like he just fell off the face of the earth. So, I mean, John, I don't know where you are. If in the off chance you're watching this, I hope you're doing well. And like I said, it's been like 2 decades now since, we used to, talk on YouTube talking about this. So, John McBride, I hope you're well. And this one I got, it's a double feature, which I got for, it's RockNRolla, which is a Guy Ritchie film I've never seen, and Swordfish. And I had high hopes for Swordfish because I love these early 2000s, late 90s tech thrillers. Hackers, I mentioned earlier. There's a movie from 2001 called Antitrust. I love. It's such a weird movie, but I love it. Antitrust with Ryan Philippe and Tim Robbins. Love it. So I'm like, this is another cyber hacker thriller of the early 2000s. It's got to be good. It's got to be the same thing. Swordfish. I hate that I'm saying this, guys, but I thought Swordfish was terrible. You got John Travolta, who, I'll be honest, I've never been crazy about as an actor. Sorry, I've never been big on John Travolta. I'm sorry. Halle Berry, Hugh Jackman is the star of it. You got Don Cheadle. I love Don Cheadle, but the movie, it does the thing I hate, where it starts off with an awesome scene and then it goes like 3 days earlier. I'm to the point now, any movie that does that, something happens and then 3 days earlier, that gets the automatic fuck you from me. So please leave down in the comments other movies that do that so I know not to watch them. Because when I'm gotten to the point now, when that happens at the beginning of a movie, it automatically turns me off of the whole thing. I'm like, nope, they did the thing. Nope. So, but no, Swordfish, the story's not satisfying. None of the characters are likable. The entire movie is filtered like with this piss yellow cinematography that never lets up. It's just, I did not like Swordfish at all. RockNRolla was a very weird movie. Ludacris is in it, so that made me happy. It's very strange, but it's very British and it's very Guy Ritchie. So for that unique development, I kind of dug it. And by the time it was over, it was a much more satisfying watch than Swordfish was. So at least one of these two wound up being good. And sad to say, this one kind of disappointed me too, because I'm like, Burt Reynolds, I love Dom DeLuise. This is a movie with the two of them together. The plot sounds really macabre and really dark humor, but hey, it's that era. It's the 70s or 80s, yeah, 78, and it reminds me of Better Off Dead, my number one favorite comedy, like a comedy of like failed suicide attempts. The End. I got nothing out of this one. I like the parts that it starts off really sad and really downbeat, but then it gets really goofy, and the stuff that happens, I got nothing out of this one. And there's no resolution. Like, the movie just stops. Like, I don't know what, like, the movie was over, I'm like, that was it? Like, I hate to say that about a Burt Reynolds movie, I really do, but sorry, that one just didn't land. In the last Blu-ray, we got this one for the Gary Busey collection, which is funny because he's only in this for like 1.5 scenes. But let me tell you, for the 1.5 scenes that you get him, he is at full Busey, which is awesome. And that's the Tom Cruise movie, The Firm. Really good movie, really captivating, suspenseful, intriguing, legal thriller. It does not need to be nearly 3 hours long. Now, I was not really feeling bored with it until the last half hour. I'm really like, okay, we could have gotten here sooner. This did not need to be this long. It's a good movie, though. I mean, Tom Cruise does great in it. You've got an awesome supporting cast. You got Wilford Brimley in there, obviously Gene Hackman, Ed Harris, Hal Holbrook. Yeah, it's a good movie. It's just too long. I would have liked to see the Busey in it longer. His character is so crazy. I wanted to see a whole side movie just about him and his private detective firm. But as it stands, I don't know if this one needs much introduction either. I don't hear this one come up as much, because nowadays people just associate Tom Cruise with all the action and all the stunts. So a bit more of a, I don't know if you want to call it a deep cut, but... And now we've got the DVDs. And we will start off with 2 TV movies. I've never heard of either of these. So I'm like, but they both had very interesting premises. And like, sometimes these TV movies can be gems. And the first one stars Michael Douglas, called Shattered Silence, also known as When Michael Calls. It had a very good synopsis about the ghost of a kid that had died calling the aunt through the phone, and every time the kid calls, somebody dies. I'm like, that's an intriguing premise. I will say this, I don't know if this has any other releases other than this DVD. The transfer on this DVD is pretty horrible. I mean, it's a 70s TV movie, so I'm not expecting much, but this is definitely a low-quality DVD by this Legacy. You know, I think they're pretty notorious for being a low-budget thing. The movie itself is actually pretty good for a 70s TV movie. It's a nice mystery that unfolds. It definitely draws you in and makes you curious to see what happens. I think my viewing experience would have been better if the quality of this was better, but there's a cool death scene involving bees, and there's a scene at a kid's Halloween jack-o'-lantern contest that's darkly humorous. And the villain, when they get revealed at the end, gives a wonderfully crazy performance. So, yeah, if you're into 70s TV movies, this one's one of the better ones, because it has an intriguing premise, it keeps you in. Yeah, not that bad. It definitely needs a better release, though, so I don't know who would own the rights to something like that. And the other TV movie, this one's from 2001, so you don't have that problem with this. And again, it had a good cast, and I saw the plot. Sounded interesting. Black River, starring Jay Moore, where he goes to this little small-town America, you know, perfect, idealized, almost kind of a Hallmark town, but everything about the town is under surveillance, and the plot unfolds in a pretty crazy way, where you find out these weird things about the town because you know something's off. Once he gets there, he's not allowed to leave, and every time he tries, something prevents him from it. This goes in some crazy directions, and it's a weird enough TV movie that kept me into it. It's very bonkers, it's very strange, but it plays itself very seriously, which is interesting given that Jay Moore is the star of it, who's usually a very comedic guy. Stephen Tobolowsky is in this as the mayor, playing pretty much the character you would come to expect from Stephen Tobolowsky. So, but yeah, I'd never heard of it. This was a total blind buy, and for a TV movie, it wasn't that bad. Okay, and then this one was just kind of a random suggestion that popped up. I really liked the cast. It had a good premise. I'm like, okay, and apparently it's a remake of a foreign film that the same director then came to the U.S. to remake. So I'm like, let's give it a shot. Ewan McGregor, Josh Brolin, Patricia Arquette, and Nick Nolte in Nightwatch. And this one was pretty cool. For some reason, John C. Reilly is in this, but he's uncredited. And I'm like, that was the most distracting thing about this whole thing. He showed up, and I'm like, why the hell is John C. Reilly in this? But it's a real cool, atmospheric, it very much, I don't know what the original foreign version of this is like, but this remake, I mean, it's done by the same director, so I can only assume it's similar. It's very Hitchcockian. The way the music is, the way it's shot, it has a very Hitchcock, Brian De Palma kind of style and vibe to it. Kind of reminds me, there's another 90s movie that I love called Mute Witness. I like that movie more than this, but similar tone, similar style. A lot of this takes place in a morgue, which is really, I mean, it's a cool setting. Brad Dourif pops up from time to time as this real high-strung doctor, which is fun. Or doctor, mortician, or somebody. And a young Josh Brolin, because this is even before Hollow Man. Yeah, it's a good no Blu-ray release on this. Nick Nolte, like I said, Nick Nolte and Gary Busey are always so interchangeable, so it's like I could see Busey playing this role. It's a cool little thriller, because you don't really know where it's going or what the plot is, but as it goes out and as it unfolds, you're like, oh, okay. It's not the best thing in the world, not the most, edge of your seat thriller, but the style, the mystery, I'm like, I can dig it. I'm into this. So Nightwatch was a good watch. Not a great watch, but a good watch. And this one was a riot. This is a new bad movie classic. It's a Die Hard ripoff called No Contest, where you have a Miss America style beauty pageant, or no, I'm sorry, Miss Universe, because they're all from different countries. It's the Miss Universe pageant that gets taken over Die Hard style by Andrew Dice Clay as our Hans Gruber figure, which that alone. And you got Robert Davi as one of our heroes, so you got an actual Die Hard veteran, Agent Johnson. So basically what you have here, you have Shannon Tweed in the John McClane role, you've got the Dice Man in the Hans Gruber role, you've got Roddy Piper in the Carl role, and you've got Robert Davi in the Al Powell role. This thing is nuts. This thing is so stupid, but I was laughing the whole time, and I was highly entertained. If you want a really stupid, entertaining, funny, silly as all hell, total Die Hard ripoff, this is for you. This was a treasure. I had a lot of fun, maybe more than I should have with it, but it was a hoot. Robert Davi does something with his cane at the end. I'm like, they're not going to do that because it would be too stupid. And then they did it, and I'm just like, yes! Last but not least, kind of coming full circle here, not too long after I bought that Girl in the Red Truck, Charlie Brown, I got the Peanuts Emmy Honored Collection because I had all of these on VHS. I hadn't gotten any of these Peanuts things on DVD, and I thought, well, this has a lot of them in there. So this says, You're the Greatest Charlie Brown, She's a Good Skate Charlie Brown, It's Magic Charlie Brown, Someday You'll Find Her Charlie Brown, Is This Goodbye Charlie Brown, Life is a Circus Charlie Brown, What Have We Learned Charlie Brown, and then it has It's Flash Beagle Charlie Brown, which was the Flashdance ripoff they did. that has way too good of a soundtrack for what that was. I remember watching Flash Beagle on VHS all the time, so to have Flash Beagle in here, it's good. Snoopy's getting married, Charlie Brown. It has Why Charlie Brown Why on it, which is one of the most depressing children's cartoons ever made. I've had that one on VHS as well. So I would watch that one when I was a kid because I had the tape. And You're a Good Sport, Charlie Brown. Notice it's the Girl in the Red Truck, Charlie Brown has never gotten any kind of a DVD or disc release beyond the tape. That's how I got that bootleg of it. But it's nice to have all these Peanuts things in just one DVD. They're all in one place so I could go to them. I do have Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown on DVD, and I do have the 1960s and the 1970s collection. So my Peanuts collection is pretty well rounded. There's a few more I need to get to complete it, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Who doesn't love the Peanuts gang? And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my Leap Day 2024 update. Like I said, I will hopefully have more news and more videos coming out in the spring regarding the John Wayne Gacy murders, life and death in Chicago, of which I have a small role in. And like I said, go to www.vh-us.com to listen to Season 15, Episode 3, where I am on there to talk about the movie Funny Man, and lots of other announcements still to come soon, so it's a very exciting time. Stay tuned, leave your comments below, hope you're all doing well, and you will hear from me very soon.